Most men will never realize there are two words that say, I love you, without ever saying it, and she hears them louder than the real phrase. Not flowers, not grand declarations, two ordinary words said at the right moment. What if I told you most men avoid these words entirely, thinking they sound too small to matter? Stay with me, because the second one changes everything. Here's the thing. This is not your fault. Nobody ever taught you that love, especially early on, is rarely spoken directly. School did not explain this. Movies trained you to wait for the big moment, the dramatic confession under fireworks. The truth is quieter than that, and the problem is not that you lack feeling. It's that you were never shown the language she's actually listening for. Picture a man, late 50s, recently retired, finally dating again after years of routine and silence. He feels something real for the woman across the table, but it is early. Too early for I love you. So he says nothing at all. He smiles, pays the bill, opens her car door, and goes home thinking he did everything right. Meanwhile, she drives home quietly, wondering if he feels anything beyond polite company. You were probably doing everything right, just missing the words that would have told her, and the fact that you're here asking this question already puts you ahead of most men. I've spent years studying how women experience emotional bonding from the inside, the quiet phrases that register as devotion long before either person is ready to name it. This is not guesswork. This is what is actually happening in her mind when certain small words land with enormous weight, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what those words are. Here's what's really happening biologically in these early moments. Her brain is constantly scanning for what psychologists call emotional consistency, small repeated signals that prove your interest is steady, not performative. Every time you say something that confirms care without demanding anything back, oxytocin, the bonding hormone released during moments of trust and safety, rises slightly, building attachment in tiny increments rather than one dramatic spike. Here's the part most men never hear. Men tend to think love is proven through grand action, while a woman's brain often registers it through small, consistent verbal cues repeated over time. Here's exactly how it breaks down. The first phrase is, I missed you. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but her brain reads it as proof that she occupies space in your mind even when she is not present. Research on attachment shows that being missed activates the same neural reward pathways as being chosen. It tells her she is not just enjoyable in the moment, she lingers afterward. Picture her phone lighting up on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, nothing special happening, and the message simply says those two words with nothing else attached. She reads it twice before setting the phone down, because there's no ask in it, just presence. That small confirmation that she crossed his mind unprompted does more emotional work than an elaborate compliment ever could. Now the second one, and this is where most men hold back because they think it sounds too vulnerable too soon. The phrase is stay longer. Her brain interprets this as a refusal to perform indifference, which goes against everything modern dating culture teaches men to do. Picture them at the end of a dinner, the check paid, both of them slow to stand, and instead of letting the evening end on schedule, he simply says it. Quiet, almost reluctant, like he wishes he didn't need to ask. Her body relaxes back into the chair before her mind even catches up. When a man misses this, he lets the night end exactly on time, and she walks away wondering if he was simply being polite. When he says it, she feels wanted specifically, not just accompanied. But here's where it gets interesting, because the third phrase is the one almost no man thinks to say on purpose. The third is, tell me more. Not flattery, not a question about logistics, just an invitation for her to keep talking about herself. This works because of something called active interest signaling. When a man asks for more rather than redirecting the conversation back to himself, her brain registers it as rare attentiveness. Since most early conversations are subtly competitive rather than curious. There was a man named Richard, a quiet dresser, recently widowed, sitting across from a woman at a small coffee shop downtown. She mentioned, almost as an aside, a complicated story about her sister, and he could have nodded and moved on. Most men do. Instead, he set his cup down and said those two words, leaning in slightly. She talked for 10 more minutes and later told a friend that was the moment she stopped being careful with him. Richard never realized how close he came to letting that story pass by unnoticed. If this is making sense so far, take a moment and save this video. What comes next is even more important. The fourth, and this one carries real weight, is I noticed. Not you look nice, which she's heard 1,000 times, but something specific. I noticed you changed your morning routine, or I noticed you seemed quieter today. This works because specificity overrides generic praise in the brain's trust circuitry. Vague compliments can be said to anyone, But noticing requires sustained attention, which her nervous system reads as a form of care that cannot be faked easily. Picture a quiet morning walk, nothing eventful, and he mentioned something small he'd picked up on days earlier. Proof he had actually been paying attention, not just waiting for his turn to talk. That detail tells her she is being watched not with suspicion, but with genuine interest. Most men stop here. Do not. The fifth, and this one most men get backward, is I'm glad it's you. It sounds plain, almost forgettable, but research on relationship security shows that direct statements of preference, even small ones, reduce uncertainty faster than indirect compliments. Picture a quiet evening, music low, and instead of saying something elaborate, he simply says it. Flat, sincere, no performance behind it. Her shoulders drop slightly because there is nothing to overanalyze in that sentence. When a man avoids naming his preference directly, she's left guessing whether she's special or simply convenient. When he says it plainly, the guessing stops. And now, the final one, the one most men never reach and the one that changes everything. The sixth is, I trust you with this. Said while sharing something small but personal, a worry, a memory, an uncertain plan, not a grand secret, just something real. This works because vulnerability-based trust forms faster than performance-based trust. Her brain registers a man's willingness to be known, even slightly, as far more significant than his ability to impress. Picture a quiet evening on a porch, the conversation slowing down, and instead of keeping things light the way he normally would, he mentions something he's uncertain about, his job, his health, an old regret, and finishes with those 4 words. There is a slight pause in his voice, an imperfection that makes it land harder than anything polished could. She is no longer evaluating him in that moment. She is simply present with him, fully, in that quiet admission. I want you to sit with something for a moment, because this is not just about saying the right words. This is about something deeper. Many men carry years of quiet frustration, wondering why their feelings never seem to register the way they intend, not because they don't care, but because nobody ever showed them this particular language. You have been expressing something real in a way she was never trained to hear, and that ends today. I am not talking to you as a student right now. I am talking to you as one person to another, because I know what it feels like to care deeply and still feel unseen. Awareness does not just change what you say, it changes how you are understood. So let's bring this together. The quiet honesty of, I missed you, the vulnerability of asking her to stay longer, the rare attentiveness of, tell me more, the specificity of saying, I noticed, the plain sincerity of, I'm glad it's you, and the trust embedded in sharing something real before asking for anything back. Together, these are not lines to memorize. This is not about tricks or games. This is about understanding, not control. Real connection is not forced. It is recognized. You now see what most men completely miss. The man who understands these words doesn't need the grand gesture. He simply shows up, aware, present, and honest, long before the big moment ever arrives. If this gave you a new perspective, drop the word reaching in the comments. I read everyone. And before your next quiet moment with her passes by unnoticed, you need to see what I'm sharing in my next video, because it reveals the exact silences she uses to test whether you're truly listening, and missing that part means leaving half the conversation behind. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss it. She is already telling you. Now you know how to listen.